Welcome back to The Love of Dogs. I'm Arthur Benjamin with the lovely Farrah White and the handsome Bandit.
Yes.
And we have an absolutely incredible guest and a phenomenal show for you today.
We do. We're lucky enough to be joined by the First Lady of Philanthropy, Carolyn Farb. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm delighted.
And she's going to tell us, I don't even know of any cause that hasn't come close to your heart, but you're going to tell us about a couple of your favorites.
Absolutely. The Society for the Performing Arts, BARC, anything that relates to children, and children are the caregivers for pets. So it's really important. It's all full circle.
Nice, that's true.
Well, speaking of children, I read the most incredible book at 2 o'clock in the morning last night, and I had the mind to read it then. And it was, surprise, a book, one of the many that you've written. So why don't you just tell us about it?
It's called
Lucas Comes to America.
Lucas Comes to America. And about 8 years ago, I lost my only child, Jake, and I was really sad. And I had a beloved Shih Tzu named Bogey, who was with me for 18 years. And a year after Jake passed, Bogey left me. And I never wanted another dog to replace Bogey. So 2 dogs used to gather in front of my gate, and they looked like Toto from The Wizard of Oz. It's very unlike my Shih Tzu. So I inquired, what kind of a dog was this? So the man was a little snooty, and he said, it's a Lucas Terrier. So then I called the owner, and she said, well, you can't get a dog like this. They're impossible to get. So that was my charge, to try to get a Lucas Terrier. Well, they come from England, and they're very rare. They were bred by Sir Jocelyn Lucas, so I immediately sent out feelers to get my dog. And lo and behold, a dog was born in a litter in Manchester, England, and a great friend of mine had invited me to a wedding in Paris, and so I made a strange a bet with him. I said, look, I'll do this if you go and pick up my dog. And so he went, and it was quite a journey bringing Lucas to America. And this is his story.
And the first attempt, not to ruin the book, but the first attempt to get on the plane, he took a kennel down to the airport and got sent home.
Yes, the officials at the airport said, it won't work, it's too big, it won't fit under the seat. And here he is in this town. The farm was 100 miles from the airport, so he had to make the journey back and forth to find the proper book pack, dog carrier, pouch to bring Lucas home. He only weighed 5 pounds. And he was adorable then, and he was all black, because they're born black. And then their hair changes, and they turn tan, and sometimes cream.
So they're a combination between 2 very ancient breeds, the Wheaton and the Cairn Terrier.
Yes.
And they're larger than a Cairn.
They're larger
and fluffier.
Fluffier, and the ideal weight is 20 pounds. But sometimes with treats and Cheerios, things get out of hand.
Well, Bandit says the same thing. His ideal weight is 12 pounds, and he's 16, and he's still growing. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's been a treat kind of year so far.
You know, Lucas has this really adorable walk that I talk about in the book. He looks like Charlie Chaplin from the back. He's got a great little strut, and he moves his body, and he's very feisty. He's got a hard body. Now his pup, Max, is a totally different story. He's kind of cushy and fluffy and blonde and arrogant.
How funny. I think we have pictures of both father and son. We may pop up in a minute. And now I hear a rumor that there's going to be a sequel, maybe?
Well, there's going to be a sequel, and there could even be a song. The sequel is tentatively called Along Came Maxie, Maxie Taxi. And then last night I was seated next to a gentleman that's the head of the Houston Symphony, and I was talking about my book and telling him that I was coming to do your show. And he said, well, why don't you do something with the symphony? We have new programs for children, and you could bring Lucas. He was afraid of Max. I don't know why, reputation precedes him, but and write a song about the book. So it's in the works.
That's great. That's great. And you do
the Lucas Overture.
The Lucas Overture.
That's
right.
a great
That
title.
is a great title.
Do you write songs?
No.
Arthur, you can do anything.
I don't sing, and I don't write songs.
You think
Bandit, do you write songs?
Now I hear you write songs.
Well, so far it's supposed to be like The Wind Beneath My Wings. People always say it took that song 5 or 6 years to come out, but my song was about my son, Jake, and there'd been different versions. One I worked on with Billy Joe Shaver, and a couple of others, and it's still in the works.
Okay. Well, good. That's really nice. I mean, it seems like you have lots of talents.
It started with a poem. I also do windows, hang art, do events, etc. But my true love is animals. I've always loved animals.
I've met a lot of people who are very big with their hearts and do philanthropy for one organization or 2 organizations or 5 organizations, but I've never met anybody that does philanthropy with every organization. It's amazing.
Oh. Well, I love it. It's a passion. It started when I was 14 working at Texas Children's Hospital, and then it's just gained momentum throughout the years. It's almost like an addiction, but I guess there are worse ones. True?
Yes,
There are.
definitely.
The girl can't say no.
That is the hard part.
It is,
The
because
more you do, the more you get asked.
exactly. Well, I'm on a sabbatical, and I know people have heard that before, but maybe I'll stick to it.
You should. It's needed.
Well, you want to talk about some of your achievements or some of the highlights that you've had in all of these different organizations you've helped?
Well, I've just recently worked on Helping a Hero, which provides homes to wounded veterans that come back from Afghanistan. And that was very rewarding because they give so much, as we all know, and ask so little. So that's the very minimum of what we can do. I've worked on that, and I've also worked a lot on things with the arts and done telethons for the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And I have differing opinions. I think each case with relationship to animal care is different. For instance, I don't totally believe in neutering, but it depends on the circumstances and the greater good for the animals, not necessarily the community. And just like you saved Bandit's life when he had problems with his legs, I think every animal should be looked at as almost like a child and given every opportunity to achieve and survive.
Nice, and it's true. And Arthur actually did some work with animals and vets. Tell her.
Actually, you mentioned vets in Afghanistan.
Right.
We're working on 2 projects right now. One is to supply the 600,000 or so soldiers who are coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan who have post-traumatic stress syndrome or sexual trauma disorder with dogs as companion animals or service animals. And I'm working with an organization that we're going to have on the show, which in a few weeks, called Pause for Vets. And then the other project is to leave a legacy in Afghanistan. It's called Operation American Legacy, American Afghanistan Legacy, and it's leaving a shelter that does 100 in that country. The dogs run wild, 100 spay and neuters a week for the street dogs, so that they don't get beaten to death and they don't get stoned, and they can live amongst the people because they don't treat dogs like we do. And at the same time, to house the dogs of American soldiers who have to leave their best friend and come home, and they think they're going to be homeless. So then they hold them, and when they get home, they can raise the money and have them shipped home. So
what a wonderful project! I mean, it's a great American legacy.
We've got to leave something in Afghanistan.
Yes, and animals speak to all of us on every level.
And you talk about children, they're one of the greatest fears is rabies. So by neutering the street dogs and by treating them at the same time for rabies, and by taking these few dogs that are of our American soldiers and seeing that they're cared for as well, we hope to end rabies in the country.
People probably don't even realize that that is an issue. I mean, that it does exist, and so I think that's just another way that the Americans leave their footprint, a positive one.
Yeah, and we're partnering with an organization called Nowzad Dogs, which is the only dog rescue in Kabul, Afghanistan. And the guy who runs it is a British Marine, and he just came home, had to get his dog, and then realized he had to do it for other soldiers. So It's American Dog Rescue and NASAD.
Well, they do more for people sometimes than other people. You know, it's an unspoken language, and nurturing and comforting, and I've seen that with several of the soldiers that are wounded that need a service dog, and so they're invaluable to us all.
It's amazing how when a dog, they do a thing called a bump, where a group of soldiers meet dogs, maybe 20 dogs, and occasionally in the room a dog picks a soldier, and you can see it instantly that they bond together, and that's when they award the dog. Otherwise, they just go through 3 or 4, and if there's no dog, there's no dog. But
I like
it's
that.
a really wonderful thing, because dogs pick people. People don't pick dogs.
They do, and they have great instincts and intuition. I mean, and very protective qualities for people. My dogs do that.
No, I bet. You know what? I have really enjoyed something that you said. You said that you like working with animals, and that you know, you mentioned the loss of your son and being an advocate for children, and it made me realize those two entities. Those are two definite examples of unconditional love, because you unconditionally love your children, and you unconditionally love your pets, your dogs. And I was just curious, what was the first animal organization that you got involved with?
What was probably the SPCA, and I was just, while you all were talking and everything, I was wondering, which one do you think does the best service for the animals? Because I think, you know, your viewers probably are confused, like with a lot of the nonprofits, there are people doing the same work, and which one really, bottom line, delivers the best services, the best programs, the most protection and care for animals. You hope that you do choose the right one, and also you can't be passive. You have to look at the organization's head to make sure they're doing what they say they're doing and stewarding the funds that people are giving and raising to fulfill these programs.
And one of the greatest ways for people to find out that for the large organizations is Charity Navigator, and they can look up how much of the money goes to the cause rather than to the administration.
And they can also be spies and volunteer.
That's even better.
I think of myself as a super sleuth sometimes.
That's glamorous.
You know, just go in there and do a little service and make sure it's all happening, right?
Honor your head cam.
We're going to need trench coats.
And a head cam.
and yeah, I have a head
Yes,
cam.
we'll be like Peter Sellers, you know, going around investigating.
That's funny. It's really necessary, though. That is very important. And isn't it amazing, just with technology and now the different websites that are available, you know, that you can go and look things like that up?
Yes, it is. It's very, very interesting. That's the one thing that I really enjoy about computers. It's right at your fingertips, although I'm not an expert. I was wondering, in your film festival, are there any great dog movies coming up? I loved War Horse, I have to tell you. I loved it more
It was so
than
hard
the
for
play.
people to see it, but it was such a good movie.
Oh, it was so, I described it as exquisitely beautiful and painful.
Oh, wow.
Very painful, especially the scene of him pulling the cannon up the hill. That was just, to sit through was just excruciating, but it was nice to know that no horses were harmed in the making of the film.
And as opposed to other films and that are doing things that cause harm to animals. The play, everyone said you have to see the play. There's nothing that takes the place of film, because I love horses, and you can't make believe.
Right. No, you can't. But I have to tell you, we actually, Arthur and I met. We ended up talking. I was on this show to promote a dog movie that I was in.
Angel Dog.
Angel Dog. But one of the things we had a trainer that was on set, and it was pretty funny because they had the lead male actor sitting on the pavement next to the car, and then they brought the dog in, and she came up and she actually measured the temperature of the ground, and then said, "Oh no, the dog can't be on the ground." So we had to fold up a little blankie so that the dog could sit on the blankie and not actually be touching the pavement because it was too hot. But we left the actor there. It was pretty funny.
Was it a Dallas pavement?
It was. You know what? It was San Antonio.
Oh.
Yeah, it was warm. But they do have protective services for things like that people can use in films that really will. It gives you the benefit of getting to say, you know, this film was made, and it was made with the animal safety and rights in mind. And it's funny because I almost wanted one of those.
Well, back to what you were saying about the different organizations and which one is best, I think many of them specialize in different things that are beneficial to animals. So when I think of the largest organizations, I think of organizations that do investigation, I think of organizations that do puppy mill busts, I think of organizations that do lobbying and legislation, I think of, well, you think of organizations that,
He's agreeing with you.
save dogs.
He's agreeing with
He thinks
you.
of the rescues that save dogs, and it's a funny world because they don't all get along.
It's
What's your experience?
They're competing for the philanthropic dollar. Don't you think that's a big factor? But I think the least amount of administrative cost and the greatest amount of service, if it can work like that, is best. But the utmost concern should be the animals, the pets.
That's why when we put together American Dog Rescue, it has 0 administrative costs.
That's something.
Yeah. Well, and
It all goes to either the animals or publicizing the project, but nothing to administration. I contribute all of that.
Do you think fostering for young children to have a foster pet at home is a good way to teach them how to care for a pet when they finally get one? Or do you think they should be already trained before they take a pet home?
I think you should write a book where Lucas
Does an
teaches
investigation.
children. No, well, but that would be a good book too. But I'm thinking of one where Lucas educates kids on how to take in a rescue dog and care for them, because a lot of times they get a dog and they don't know how to handle them.
That's true.
Well, maybe in the next book, Along Came Maxie, he and Maxie should take in a rescue dog.
Yes.
That's a great idea, Arthur. May I borrow it?
Yeah.
You may.
We're in process.
You may. Well, let's see, Bandit, do you want to go live in Houston for a while?
Right. Can you imagine?
Yes.
You have 3 dogs for a little
Maxie would be so jealous.
bit. So, question, do you have any advice for people who are wanting to get more and more into volunteering and philanthropy?
I do. I think that they should pick something that speaks to their heart, their passion. I think they need to know the organization before they dive in and see if it fulfills what they want, what they expect from an organization and the people that it's supposed to serve. And then I think they should give 100% of their commitment, not just say they're going to do something. I think they need to be sure they have the time or the funds or whatever it is that they choose to do to really make a commitment and a difference, because volunteerism is what makes all the cities we live in wonderful places to live. It's caring individuals. It's that core.
Do they have to be wealthy to do philanthropy?
No, philanthropy is something from the heart. It's, it's anything. It's an act of kindness, delivering Meals on Wheels. I've done that, going and knocking on the homes of seniors, and I saw in one of your programs that you provide meals for pets of people that do not leave their homes. And I thought that was really thoughtful, because the pets are very important to their livelihood and existence.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he
Very
also
nice.
hopped in and helped out actually when all the animals were stranded from Katrina.
Floods, yes.
What did you think about that?
Well, we stayed with our home as long as we could. You know, terriers are barkers. I had to have a heart-to-heart talk to Lucas. We found first to get us into a hotel that would take us, and a friend of mine helped us arrange for a hotel. But every time, someone walks by your door, you can't have someone barking. But it was wonderful. He loved the bellmen that were there. They had dog dishes and food for the dogs, and there was shattered glass everywhere. We stayed there for 10 days, and I was in the middle of trying to, I was chairing a benefit for UNICEF. And so I just kind of set everything up in my hotel room. We postponed it a bit. We didn't miss a beat. Everybody was happy, and ultimately we went back home.
How nice.
That is nice. That's
That's a
actually
nice
a good
outcome.
end to that
You know,
story.
it was really devastating.
But still, the total displacement.
It was.
It's so scary when all of a sudden everything you take for granted stops.
Evaporates. I mean, it is. It's very humbling. I mean, because all of us suffer, and it tests us and our faith and whatever holds us strong.
Well, I think it helps it make obvious what's important also.
So everybody should have a plan not only for themselves for a disaster, but for their animals.
Oh, definitely.
Well, I wouldn't leave home without mine, would you? No.
I don't.
No. I mean, they're of high priority.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we wish that yours could have made it here today. We would have loved to have had them on.
I would have loved to have had them with me. I can't handle them both on the road, but maybe the next time we'll take a car trip.
I was
Oh, that
gonna
would
say,
be great.
If you think about coming back next week, next Friday for that dinner, maybe you can sneak
Can
one
they
of them.
come to the dinner?
Never say never.
We are going to have some dogs at that dinner. So.
Oh, how fantastic.
Yes.
I like that.
So that might
Service
work.
dogs.
Yes, yes. We'll just have to get them a little service dog.
Aren't they amazing?
They are.
They're our heroes. I think maybe we should declare a special day. Get your mayor to do that.
That would be fabulous.
Wouldn't it, with one of your vets and his heroic service dog?
What we call companion animals for soldiers, hero assistance dogs. So Hero Assistance Dog Day.
That would
Wouldn't
be
that
great.
be, and they could all be there at City Hall.
Let's work on that. Would you want to help us do that?
Sure.
We'll give you one more thing to do, one more thing to add to your
No,
list.
but it's you all can just beckon the troops and they'll be there.
Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. We want to tell everybody to go out and privilege their children by getting a copy of Lucas Comes to America, because it is truly an incredible book.
Absolutely.
And anybody who wants to get more information on what we're doing, you can go to AmericanDogRescue.org.
Yeah, or if you want to learn more information about Carolyn, and actually if you could show a shot of the book so that everyone
be
can
great.
see what the front of it looks like, you can follow her philanthropy and go to her website at www.carolynfarb.com. And you can see there the book to make sure you can
Now, are you also on
recognize it.
Facebook and Twitter?
I have to make a confession. I have a Facebook account, but I don't know how to use it. It's only when my assistant helps
You know
me.
what?
So
I'm going to help you with that. Don't go away. We're coming right back. I got to go give a Facebook lesson.
Well, welcome back to The Love of Dogs. Bandit says hi, and we want to do a little bit of an update on where the seal hunt has gone since last week's show.
Yes.
Farah and I issued a challenge to the Canadian government to step in and end the seal hunt, and that challenge was picked up in literally hundreds of newspapers across the globe and got a lot of play in Canada. And everybody was pretty sure the seal hunt would end. And then the provinces of Labrador and Newfoundland issued a $600,000 loan to the processing plant that processes the seals. And unfortunately, the hunt is on, and 400,000 seals or babies are at risk right now. And it's all for naught.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, and they're halfway into it, so it's definitely happening, which is so difficult to think about, you know. And I don't know about you guys. We had mentioned that you could write the Prime Minister. I actually have several times.
4 times.
Yeah, and put the link and said write him, but he hasn't
He didn't
written
write back.
No.
Well, I just think that everybody should do their little part so that this is the last year.
Mm-hmm.
The governments can't continue to give loans and have the taxpayers put up with funding the lives of a few fishermen
Right.
at the expense of everyone
Right.
to store baby seal pelts for someday when there'll be a market, and there is none.
Well, and you know, yeah, the whole storing of the pelts is what really gets me. You would think that $600,000 would have been better appropriated, you know, within their industry some other way where it could have actually benefited them.
I would think that lines in the road or filling potholes would be a better use of their money.
Sure.
That the education of children certainly would be. That feeding the homeless certainly would be. And you name it.
Or even directly for the fishermen, you know.
A buyout.
A buyout for their licenses, upgrade on some of their equipment maybe when they actually are fishing real fish.
Well, it only accounts for 5% of their total income, and it's only that small segment of those two provinces' populace that has anything to do with this. So it's not going to ruin the economy. In fact, if you talk to many Americans, they say, I'm not going there until this is over.
Right.
I'm not eating Canadian seafood until that is over.
Yeah.
And if they weigh the cost against the benefit, the math just doesn't come out to continue this horrific event.
No, it was horrible. We should have gotten Carolyn Farb on that.
Yeah, well, we should have definitely have a conference with her, because it is just a inexplicable event that is a lack of humanity that we should all be really ashamed of. But on another note, Carolyn was wonderful, wasn't she?
She was wonderful.
What an incredible woman to do as much as she does for charity.
She really does so much. That's what I said. We should have added that to her list.
Well, I added a couple of events tonight to her list,
You
and
did.
she wasn't even staying.
I know.
And she's just staying for those events. She's amazing.
You're good like that, Arthur, though. You can get people to do things.
Oh, I don't know if it's me. I think it's more her. She just can't say no. I mean, it was like I saw her light up as soon as there was an opportunity to make a difference.
See, isn't that nice? So whether it's film or animals or anything. It's
Or the
nice.
symphony.
Or the symphony. Exactly right.
She just does over and over again. And Lucas is such an interesting story. That
It is.
Lucas Comes to America truly is a great kids book.
Yes.
And it's a simple read.
So
And
try to
doesn't
pick
take
that
long.
up if you can.
Yes.
Lucas Comes to America. And
Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon has it. And there's a sequel also. And all of this, along with all of our other shows, you know, you can find out more on AmericanDogRescue.org. And then also, please don't forget, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on YouTube, all of the social medias. So follow us, like us, and you can find out more about the shows and what we have coming up next week.
Arthur Benjamin and Farrah White, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.